Imagine waking up one day and realizing that every part of your life, your income, your house, your job, your savings, your speech, your purchases, your travel, even your future's children, future earnings, is quietly controlled, regulated, taxed, monitored, or restricted by forces you never consented to. No chains, no shackles, just laws, taxes, debt, fines, licenses, restrictions, inflations, and threats backed by force. This is modern statism. And today I'm going to show you with facts, history, and real world examples every single way government power operates as a system of soft slavery. By the end of this video, you'll understand why freedom doesn't disappear all at once, it dies slowly, in 1,000 tiny cuts we were told were for our own good. So let's begin. Section 1. Taxation without consent. Governments claim the right to take a percentage of your income under threats of fines, bank account seizures, or prison. In 2023, the average American lost about 37% of their lifetime earnings to taxes at all levels: federal, state, local, payroll, sales, and hidden corporate taxes backed into every product. Let me give you an example. In Prohibition-era America, federal agents jailed hundreds of thousands of people over alcohol laws. But even then, income tax evasion carried harsher penalties than bootlegging. The government made it explicitly clear you can break the moral laws, but you don't dare break the revenue laws. Property taxes add another layer of control. You can never truly own your own home. Even if you pay off the mortgage, you miss a few payments of property taxes and the state takes it away. A perfect example, a 76-year-old Michigan man once lost his home over an $8.41 tax underpayment. Yes, the county seized the entire house and kept about 100% of the proceeds. He did sue and get some money back later, but this is still the point. Taxation is framed as your contribution, but if you refuse to contribute, armed agents eventually come to enforce compliance. Next thing, inflation, the hidden tax. Inflation is a direct transfer of wealth from citizens to government. A perfect example is Venezuela's inflation when it hit 65,000% in 2018, vaporizing life savings overnight. People burned their dollar for heat because they were worthless, less than firewood. But even in the US, inflation silently erodes purchasing power every single day. A dollar from 2000 is worth only 60 cents today. That's just 25 years ago. During COVID, the U.S. printed over 40% of all dollars ever created in less than 2 years. Workers got small stimulus checks, while asset owners skyrocketed in wealth, a predictable outcome. Inflation is taxation without legislation. Section 3. Mass surveillance and data harvesting. The NSA, FBI, and DHS monitor Americans' communications through programs revealed by Edward Snowden. PRISM, X-Keyscore, and Boundless Informant were all designed to bypass constitutional protections, that is, go outside of our Constitution. An example of this, Verizon was forced to hand over all customer metadata daily to the NSA. There were no warrants, no suspicion, and no charges. Local police departments now use devices like stingrays to mimic cell towers and capture cell phone data in real time. Statism thrives when it can watch everything. Section 4. Civil asset forfeiture. You're guilty until proven innocent. Police can seize your cash or property without charging you with a crime. In 2014, U.S. police seized more property through civil forfeiture than all burglars combined, over $5 billion worth. An example, in Tejada, Texas, police pulled over out-of-town drivers and confiscated cash, phones, and jewelry routinely. One family lost over $6,000, even though they were never charged with anything. The government pockets the money and forces citizens to sue, which many can't afford. This is legalized theft. Section 5. Licensing laws and barriers to earning a living. Occupational licensing covers around 1,100 careers in the United States. Hair braiders, florists, tour guides, interior designers, even lemonade stands have been targeted. A few examples, in Louisiana, they require 2,000 hours of training just to be a florist. And Washington, D.C. requires a license for children to simply mow lawns. A woman in Tennessee faced jail for giving free makeup advice online without a cosmetology license. These laws suppress competition and protect industry insiders, not consumers. They usually stem from a form of regulatory capture. They are modern permission slips to earn a living. Section 6. Criminalizing victimless behavior. Millions have been fined, arrested, or imprisoned for actions harming no one. A perfect example is the drug war. Over 1 million people are arrested every year in the U.S. for drug violations, but mostly possession. Portugal actually decriminalized drugs and saw addiction and overdose deaths drop, proving criminalization is ideological, not scientific. Sex work example. Criminalizing consensual adult interactions pushes people into dangerous underground markets. So victimless crimes exist to justify power and revenue, not real justice. Section 7. Eminent domain abuse. The government can seize your land for quote-unquote public use, but that term has been stretched beyond recognition. A perfect example is Kelo versus New London. This happened in 2005. Homes were taken from families and given to private corporations for quote-unquote economic development. Of course, the project failed, and that land still sits empty today. But the precedent remains your property is yours until the state finds someone it prefers to give it to. Not really truly ownership. Section 8. Regulatory capture. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but corporations influence the regulators meant to oversee them. A perfect example of this was JP Morgan during the 2008 financial crisis. The banks actually helped write financial regulations that bailed them out with taxpayer money, and executives got to keep the bonuses while millions of people lost homes. A perfect example also of regulatory capture is the FDA. The FDA advisors often come from pharmaceutical companies, then return to them afterward. This revolving door ensures regulations favor the industry, not the patients. Regulatory capture is when corporations use government to crush competitors, and citizens pay for it. Section 9. Debt slavery and government spending. Every child born in America today inherits over $120,000 in federal debt. The U.S. adds roughly $1 trillion in debt every 100 days. This is taxation pushed into the future, a bill the unborn never agreed to pay. Interest on the debt alone already exceeds the entire defense budget and will soon surpass Social Security. Debt is freedom extracted from the future. Section 10. Forced schooling and indoctrination. Government schooling is mandatory in nearly every state. The curriculum is controlled, standardized, and heavily influenced by political priorities. Some examples. Civic textbooks present government authority as the default and dissent as fringe. School funding is tied to compliance with federal guidelines, and standardized tests reward obedience and memorization over critical thinking. This isn't education, it's training, and you're required to do it. Section 11. The draft and military control. The Selective Service still legally requires every male to register. The U.S. used the draft to force teenagers into the Vietnam War. Over 2 million drafted and 58,000 dead. Even now, failure to register can block federal jobs, loans, and benefits. The state claims ownership of your body for war whenever it decides. Section 12. Policing for revenue. In many cities, police departments rely on fines and tickets to fund their budgets. An example is Ferguson, Missouri. The Justice Department investigations revealed that Ferguson deliberately used police to raise revenue, not protect citizens. Residents were ticketed repeatedly for minor infractions, leading to jail time when they couldn't pay. Poor communities carry the burden of this predatory taxation. 13. The welfare cliffs and dependence. Many welfare programs are structured so poorly that getting a raise makes people lose more benefits than they gain. A single mother in Pennsylvania who went from $29,000 to $30,000 in annual income lost over $7,000 in benefits, a net loss of $6,000 for improving her life. The system punishes progress and rewards dependency. Number 14. Regulations that raise prices and reduce competition. Every new rule increases compliance costs, and small businesses suffer the most. A perfect example of this is the 2010 Dodd-Frank Act, added over 22,000 pages of financial regulations. And community banks closed by the thousands because they couldn't handle the compliance costs. And of course, this whole time, the big banks grew even larger, and consumers paid even more. Choice was evaporated. Number 15, emergency powers and pandemic precedents. The COVID lockdowns show how easily governments can restrict movement, close businesses, and mandate behavior. Many of those emergency powers still exist. Governors issued orders without legislators. Families were barred from visiting dying relatives. Businesses closed permanently. Once governments discover new powers, they rarely return them. Number 16, financial censorship and frozen accounts. The government can actually freeze your bank account if it dislikes your political actions. A good example of this is in 2022, Canada froze bank accounts of trucker protesters, even people who donated to them, with no trial and no conviction. That was financial authoritarianism. Number 17, censorship and speech control. Governments pressure tech companies to remove quote-unquote disinformation, which means quote-unquote political dissent. A perfect example, the Twitter files revealed direct coordination between U.S. agencies and social media companies to suppress certain stories before elections. State power plus tech power equals censorship by proxy. Number 18, red flag laws and administrative courts. These laws allow the government to seize your property based on allegations, not convictions. You can lose rights without committing a crime, without a trial, and sometimes without even being allowed to defend yourself. This bypasses the entire concept of constitutional due process that we're supposed to have as Americans. Number 19, state-protected monopolies. Utility companies, telecoms, health insurance markets, and defense contractors all rely on state-granted monopolies. A perfect example of this is Comcast and AT&T when they lobbied for laws blocking smaller competitors from offering fiber internet. Citizens get worse service at higher prices for decades. Statism picks winners, and it isn't you. Number 20, social control through quote-unquote the public good. Yes, the government can justify almost anything by claiming it benefits the quote-unquote public. Mandatory insurance laws, zoning restrictions, regulatory fines, babysitting permits, bans on feeding homeless people, and the list goes on. The phrase public good is the linguistic skeleton key for government expansion. Statism is not a single law. It's not a single agency. It's not one politician or one president. It's a system, a worldview, a structure of power that quietly expands year after year, law after law, regulation after regulation, until the average person forgets they were ever meant to be free. This isn't about left versus right. This is about the rulers versus the ruled. Freedom is the default state of humanity. Statism is the deviation. The question for all of us now is simple. How much more are we willing to give up before we say enough is enough? Thanks for watching, and if you believe in voluntarism, liberty, and freedom, share this video so other people can see what's really going on, because the first step in escaping a system of soft slavery is recognizing the cage.